The third quality of a great leader is that they are good at the law of process. The bottom line is leaders are learners, and their ability or their capacity to develop and improve their own skills distinguishes leaders from the people who are followers. And the learning process is ongoing. And it's a result of self discipline, of perseverance. And to quote John Maxwell, he says, if I need to be inspired to take steps forward, then I'll attend an event. If I need to improve, then I'll engage in a process and stick with it. He asks this question: what is one little thing you can do more? You could do more of that thing that would have a positive impact on your life or your business and or your business. And is there something you can stop doing that will have the same kind of impact? Both of these things are important as we start to get a little bit better every day. And what you'll notice is as you decide what three things you're going to work on out of this whole series, you'll find that two of them might be things you need to start doing, and one of them might be something that you need to stop doing. So those are things you're going to be working on. But what do leaders do who have a process to improve the things they touch? So if they're constantly improving, we were trying to improve ourselves. We've already talked about that. But if we need a process to improve our business or the the practice of growing our leaders or whatever it is that you're working on, you're trying to make sure that you manage your time better, you're trying to progress in whatever area you're looking at, I'm going to teach you the right way to create a process. Because if you have a bad process, those are vague, they're boring, and when you put it into practice, they aren't really repeatable. Every time that you try to do something, you kind of have to do certain parts of it over again. You have to recreate stuff. To create a great process, follow these three steps. There are three parts. Part one is the creation, part two is the testing, and part three is optimization. So part one, when you create a process, it might be something super simple with just two steps. So for example, you might be creating the process of being on time to something, like like maybe you're ready on time, but you by the time you get to the car, you're like, oh, I forgot this, oh, I need to get this, and by the time you get to the car, you're actually barely going to make it in time. Well, that might be a super simple process. Your process might be, okay, I need to, 10 minutes before I need to leave, I need to have this in the car, I need to have my car keys, I need to make sure I have my wallet, I need to make sure I have whatever. You might have a list of four things. So at quarter till, you're going, okay, it's time to go look for those four things. I have my checklist because it's a process. A process might have one step. For example, when I'm traveling, any kind of travel, whether it's domestic or international, there are certain things that, of course, we have the things that we need to pack and all the things we try to get ready. Before I walk out the door, my husband and I have talked about this, and he says, you only need three things. You need your passport, you need your wallet, and you need your phone. That's it. If you have your passport, your wallet, and your phone, you can usually solve any problem. You might have to spend a little extra money because you forgot your toothpaste, or but you can take care of the problem fairly easily. You may not want to spend the money, but that is a process. Just three is one little step to make sure we remember three things. Okay, so in the creation part, you're creating the process. Number one, you do the task yourself. Do it yourself so that you can make sure that that is what needs to happen and that's how it works. Number two, note down how you did it. Make a list of what you did. Don't leave out any of the steps. Okay. This is your high level of the process. High level process. These are the basic steps. Number three, now you're going to break the high level steps down into smaller items and be as specific or meticulous as you need to be. Just break it down. Say, okay, so for step one of the task, what are the things I need to do inside of step one? That's what you're going to do. So for example, let's say that I am going to create videos for my YouTube channel. I am going to say, okay, the first part of the process is I need to make a list of the topics I want to create. And that's step one of my process. Step two of my process is create the outline for each of those topics, or that will each be videos. The third step is I need to get ready. I need to get dressed the way I want to look on the video. The fourth step is I need to turn on Zoom. The fifth step is I need to make sure I click record. Guess what? You might think, oh, brother, this is ridiculous. You just go do the process. You don't always have to have everything written down. You don't have to have everything written down. But if it's ever something that you forget a step, or You might forget a step. It might be worth it. It might be worth it. I'll tell you, at our office with our employees, we have process. We try to have processes for everything. And when we realize, this is when we decide to make a process. We create a process when we already did something once, and now we're trying to do it a second time, and one of the steps gets missed. Let's say that we need to go to, we're creating a retreat. We're doing a retreat, and everybody's going to be coming, and we go through the process of the retreat. We're like, okay, first we need to make sure everybody knows about the retreat. Second, we need to do this. Now we need to send them emails as reminders, let them know what they need to bring. Then we need to do this. And we have this whole list of things that the first time you do it, you're just figuring it out as you go. But then I remember one retreat, we didn't have the list all written out. And so guess what? Some of the sound equipment was forgotten. This was years ago. Some of the sound equipment was forgotten. Well, we can go buy new sound equipment, but it's pretty expensive. So if you just have the checklist, then it makes all the difference. I was just on I was invited to be on a podcast with my husband. Roger and I were on a podcast about 2 weeks ago, and it was a Zoom podcast because of what's going on in the world right now. And they were asking us questions. Roger and I had been to Disney World, and you needed to wear masks. And it was some friends of ours who have a podcast where it's all Disney. So they asked us to come on the podcast to share our experience about what it was like during this time. Is it too frustrating to be there with masks? Is everything open? How, what did that look like? So we were so excited. It was fun to talk with them over Zoom. And we did the entire podcast, and it's not live, it's recorded. So we did the whole podcast, and we get to the end, and about a half hour later, they texted us and said, we forgot to push record. So you might think that having the process written down is ridiculous. It's not necessarily ridiculous. It can totally help you. So break those high level steps down, then be as specific as you can about the checklist. And you guys, you can just, some people love to do it on paper. You can find checklists on the computer. You just find blank ones with a little checkbox beside it and a blank line. Print those off if you want, or do it in your computer. And just make a list of anything that you notice. Wow, I keep having this problem every time I try to do this, or it keeps taking us more time because we're having to redo this every time because we can't find the template we already made for XYZ. Then the minute that happens to me, I'm like, okay, I need a process. I create a process, and then I don't have to think about it again. And the beauty of it is it saves so much time. Don't make it complicated. It's super simple. Like when I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I don't ever forget how to make it. I don't need to write that down. I don't need to write down how to make an omelet. But if I make a recipe that I love, in fact, I found a recipe for homemade ice cream on the internet, and I was trying it out. Oh my goodness, it was the best ice cream recipe I'd ever had. Best homemade ice cream recipe. I was using all like natural ingredients. I was using raw milk that hadn't been pasteurized, whatever. So I'm doing this whole thing. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the best I've ever had homemade. And so what do you think I did? Do you think I thought, well, that's okay, that was awesome, next time I'll just remember? No, I might not have to write it all down because it's already written down. So I copied and pasted the entire recipe and saved it on my device. So and I made sure it was saved in the right folder. So the next time that I'm trying to make ice cream, I don't have to go, oh, what was that ice cream recipe called again? And I'm looking all over the internet, and it takes me a while to find it. And even if it only takes you a couple minutes, that's a couple minutes over time, and it wastes your time. So part two is now you're going to test it. You did the process. And remember, some of you I know, because if you're like me at all, you're going, seriously, like I'm going to make these processes. Well, that's what I tend to think. So you don't make a process for everything. It's just the second time you do something and you missed steps and it cost you extra time or extra money, now is when you make the process. Okay, now I'm making a process. So after you've written it down, now it's super simple. Now you're going to test it. You're just going to do it. Follow the process exactly, but you don't get to go outside of the process. But for me, what I do is I don't go follow the process exactly, and I can see that I missed a step, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm still going to finish to the end because I promised myself I was going to follow the process. No, if it has 8 steps and I realize after step 4, oops, I forgot a step, like I should have written this, I'm following the process exactly, and I'm watching it, because then when I notice that I missed something, then I can write it in there. Now, again, remember, I keep saying this for those of you who are like me, you don't have to create a process for everything. It's just when you notice the need, then do it. Okay. And these are things that leaders do. You want to be a good leader. You want to be able to create influence. You want to be able to lead people. You wonder why your people in your business are not following through with what they say they're going to do. You wonder why you're not growing your business the way you want. I'm telling you, this is something that leaders do. So the second part is the testing. You're following the process. Then as you go through, you make edits to anything that needs to be clarified. That's step 2. Step 3, give the process to someone else who needs to use it, have them run through it. Now, for me, there are a lot of things I do that I don't need someone else to do. If it's something I need someone at my office to do, yes, that makes a difference. But if I'm the one who needs to do it, when I'm packing for a trip, I don't have someone else pack for me. I'm sure there are people who do. I don't. I like to pack for myself. And so guess what I've done? As I created a process and each time so this is what happened. In fact, I'll use that as an example. This is what has happened. I create, um, as I would forget things for a trip, I'd be like, oh, I forgot that. I'd make a note of it. That's all. And little by little, it became a list of things. It became a process. Now, when I pack, I do all of those things. But then after several trips, I started noticing, okay, there's certain things I'm doing over and over and over, and they take me a lot of time. I am gathering all my toiletries. I'm gathering all my makeup. And I've got to not only remember everything I need to bring, I've got to go get it. I've got to put it in, go get the bag. I've got to put it in the little special bag. I've got to, or the Ziploc or whatever I'm going to do. Then I put it in the suitcase. Then I use it on the trip. Then when I get home, I take out the bag. I take every individual thing out. I go put each of those away. And I thought, this is this is wasting my time. I don't have time for this. So what I ended up doing is I got a bag that was specifically for my toiletries, and I got extras of everything as as I went to the store. And if you can't do that all at once, just do it a little at a time. Don't let anything be an excuse. I got all these extra things. Now, you know what I do? I have my toiletries. I have my electrical plugs. I have extras. I have different plugs for every country, of course, because I travel a lot and I'm in different countries all the time. But I have a bag for toiletries. I have a bag for makeup, and I have duplicates of all of those. So I have a bag that I keep in my travel with my suitcases. It's just in my suitcase. It's my makeup. It's my toiletries. It's any of the things that I always need over and over. I have gone on a trip and I've forgotten my computer charge cord. So guess what? I now have a computer charge cord that I keep in my backpack. There are some things that I need on every single trip. I in my backpack, I actually even have in one zipper, I have little mini toiletries, and not toiletries, kind of some toiletries, a little bit of makeup, because I have arrived at a location before where my bag was lost. I arrived in Asia. My bag was lost. I didn't have any of the clothes I needed to present in. I didn't, and I hadn't, it was gross. It was 18 hours of flying or whatever it was. And I was sweaty and gross. I didn't have makeup on. I hadn't done my hair. My hair was probably even, I remember one time it was even a little bit greasy. It just not how I want to be presenting in front of a big group. And so now inside my backpack, I have a little, I'll tell you a couple of my little tips because you'll figure out your own. I have I have just an eyeliner. I have mascara. I have powder because this is something I need for, as a girl, those are things I want to use. Um, if you have things, I have a toothbrush and a little mini toothpaste in there. So there are a few things that I keep. They're all small enough that they can go through security at the airport. So no matter what happens, I can totally use that. And guess what? The powder that I use for my face, I realized that I can use my brush. I have a little brush. I can dip it in the powder that's for my face. And if my hair is greasy here, I'll just put it a little bit on there. And I can remember one time I was, it's a little embarrassing because that's not something that it's not something I normally do, but it's nice. I don't need to carry every single thing with me. One time I was in the airport in a bathroom and I was having to get ready like that because of a baggage loss, and I had everything I needed. I had my powder out for my face, and I had dipped my brush in it, and people are using the restrooms, coming out and using the sinks. So I was at the sink with the mirror, and somebody came out. She was washing her hands, and I knew she was watching me, and I was a little bit embarrassed, but I'm like, you know what, whatever, I got to do what I got to do. And when I'm a little embarrassed to do something I know I need to do, or I feel a little bit shy about it, I realize I'm lacking some level of confidence. So it's like, okay, this is practice. I can just be confident, even though it might be a little bit hard. And she said, oh my goodness, that is such a good idea. She's like, you're totally, and she started asking me, and I showed her, she's like, I'm so going to do that. And so, yes, you can carry a bottle of dry shampoo or whatever. I just, in my backpack, I don't have enough room for everything. So that's what I choose to do. So you start to notice step skipping strategies that you can use. So you've given the process to someone else who needs to use it if you need to do that. Number 4, repeat steps 1 through 3. Steps 1 through 3 are number 1, follow the process exactly. Don't deviate from it. As you do it exactly, you'll notice things that number 2, you need to edit, add the edits. And number 3, have someone else try the process. And you keep doing this with the process until you know it's perfect. As I was packing and traveling, I would think of ideas for packing and I would write it down. It wasn't perfect the first time. The next trip I went on, I followed the list. I made sure I had everything on the list. I'm like, oh yeah, I need this. So I added it to the list. So each time it's not like I'm going to take 4 hours out of one day and I'm going to practice packing and unpacking so that I can get this right. That's not what I'm doing. When I'm going to do the process, that just saved me time, made it better, and I perfect the process as I have to do it. Okay. And then part 3 is optimization. Now you allow any of the edits to be made by any of the users, anybody who's doing it. So for example, if you're doing this with your leaders in your business, what you need to do is you have a system, you have a way of maybe contacting people, a way of marketing, a way of getting the word out, a way of helping people with the product once they buy it. Whatever that looks like, you start doing these things. And now, as the people that you're working with are using the process, then you're going to get feedback. You'll get more experience. You'll have people who come across situations that are an exception to the rule, and you can make notes on the process. And then the second thing you do in optimization is you review the work that was created by the process. You just review it once in a while to make sure the process doesn't have any holes in it, make sure there isn't something you could do better or more efficiently. So that is how you create a process. So to review, part 1 is create the process, part 2 is test the process, and part 3 is optimize the process. Now, because it took a while to teach that, it's easy to feel like, oh my gosh, it's faster to just go do it and not create the process. I promise you, it's way more simple than it sounds. It always takes way longer to teach something than it takes to actually do it. So go do it, pick something where you're going to do this process. And remember, by the end of this whole time together with this series of 21 laws of leadership, what we're going to do is you're going to have 3 things that you picked that you're going to work on. Maybe some of this stuff in processes might be one.